Hello and welcome to Just Africa on Souq News Television, your window into the continent's business, economy, and development stories. Here, we break down trends, spotlight opportunities, and track the forces shaping Africa's future. I am Omevi Idolo, and I don't have to do this alone. I have Amolu Emmanuel. Emmanuel, what's up?
Very well, thank you. Another interesting day to talk about issues that happen around Africa, and today's conversation I know would be very, very interesting for a lot of people to listen to.
Yeah, I'm so much excited myself. You know, despite global progress in gender equality, African girls remain underrepresented in leadership roles across schools, communities, and professional sectors. UNESCO reports that girls face systemic barriers to leadership training, mentorship, and opportunities to innovate, limiting their participation in decision-making processes. This gap restricts social, economic, and civic development and perpetuates gender inequality in future leadership pipelines. So on today's show, our focus will be on girls in leadership, building and innovating in a fast-changing world. You know, in a world that is fast, that is transforming at lightning speed, we are exploring how young women are not just keeping up, but they are stepping up to lead, build, and innovate. You know, before the show, I was having a conversation with Emmanuel, and Emmanuel said that he wants to give birth to only girls because what girls are doing in today's society is mind-blowing. We are not just running the show. Yeah. We are shaping the narrative. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
I won't stand here and pretend. Yeah. Right? And I remember we had one of our guests sometime, and he said, if for nothing, Nigeria particularly gives a lot of access to the female gender,
yes,
right?
I remember.
And then he gave us instances of how our women have crossed places even where you didn't even imagine. Like the World Trade Organization, it's one of us that is there. You talk about the AFDB, we drop people there. You talk about very international bodies, we've also put females there. And you see them top head banks. Many of the banks these days are headed by women. But the thing is, as much as we acknowledge these small steps, we still also know that more can be done.
Yes.
Right? Why I said that thing was, it was something I've always wanted to become, like, you know, parent girls. And I feel like I wanted to expose them to opportunities that I have seen.
Yes.
And many people are not so tapping into, right? And just like using this platform, we also highlight this so that even those who do not know need to know that there are so many, the boundless opportunities are there. I attended an event yesterday. Thank God our guest is going to talk about it more. And I saw young girls in secondary schools. The kind of conversations that they have, it's not even what they've done. The kind of conversations that they had and they are having, kind of gives hope that they know that the challenges are there, but they are able to shrug off whatever hindrance that, even if it is life or society has placed in front of them, they don't mind. When I heard some of them speak about the thoughts that they've had, innovations that they want to create, and in my head I'm like, I am happy that the culture of maybe a generation, Gen Z generation and the Gen Alphas and the new ones that are coming in front, there is still hope.
Yeah.
That will not say, okay, this generation has ended, what would the next one do? So even in the myriads of craziness, we have the ones that we get to see in social media, there are still some who will tell you, no, we want to do the right thing, and then we're making the efforts towards it.
Yes. You know, the idea of saying when you educate a woman, you educate a whole community is not a myth. It's actually something that is realistic. It's something that is real, something that the society have to hold on to. You cannot, in this present-day generation, you cannot be saying that the kitchen is meant for the woman, or the woman is meant to remain in the kitchen.
You can't blame that some people still believe in that.
Yes, and I find it funny when I hear some men say that, and when their wives become pregnant, they tell you that I want my wife to give birth to a girl, and that girl become a doctor. But you just refer to someone else's child, that the child should be in the kitchen. These ladies, girls are doing something amazing in our present day society. They are innovative, they are creative, they are doing much more than you can ever imagine.
It's even a good
so
era.
The story has changed.
It's a good era where they are no longer saying what a man can do, a woman can do better.
Yeah.
What they are now, they are reinventing it. They are no longer saying it. They are now doing it.
They're showing it.
They're no longer doing better now. Because at some point we'll now say, okay, let's balance equity into it.
Yeah.
So they are now doing, the best words they now say is, we are now doing what men can also do. I won't say do better.
Yeah.
So let's put it like that. So that there's no fight. There's no gender war as such. Women are now doing what men can also do.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And it just gives them, just create the opportunities, and then you're going to see that. I don't know. When you create more, when you begin to see human beings more as they are, rather than a woman and a man, I think you're going to achieve more in terms of productivity.
Okay, so we are going to actualize so many things when women are given so much opportunity. So the program today seeks to motivate schools, policymakers, mentors, and families to provide girls with access to leadership training, innovation hubs, and mentorship opportunities. And we also expect increased engagement of girls in leadership roles, adoption of mentorship and innovation programs in schools, and a shift in societal attitudes to value girls' leadership potential. The objective is to build a pipeline of confident, capable, and innovative young female leaders across Africa. We'll go on this quick break, and when we come back, we will be having how should I describe our guest?
Don't worry. Let's just do the success.
Let's just leave it there, right? We'll be right back. Yeah, welcome back to Just Africa. And today we'll be talking about girls in leadership, leading, building, and innovating in a fast-changing world. We are thrilled to have with us Itunuoluwa Hunga, a true pioneer in the space. She is the Communication and Partnerships Lead, Whelan Global. So Whelan Global is the convener of the National Head Girl Conference, a conference which seeks to empower girls to lead, build, and innovate. Hello, Itunuoluwa. How are you doing this afternoon?
Fine, thank you. Hi, Maybe. Thank you guys for having me on the show.
Yes, you're welcome. How was getting to the studio?
I would say it was smooth. It was a smooth ride.
Okay, girls in leadership. And you are the head of your own team. Tell us, how is it like being a female leading a team? How does it feel like?
I mean, well, because I work actually in a predominantly female team, it doesn't feel like, it's different. We do have a few guys on our team, but it's predominantly female. So it's like it's women leading women for the most part. So on my team personally, we're just women. Yeah, my team members are also women.
But we've also heard that women leading women is one of the most difficult role or most difficult responsibility you can have in an organization.
Honestly, I would say it's more of a myth than it is true. I feel like regardless of what gender it is that you have on your team, it all depends on the capacity of the team members to understand the vision of what the organization or what the team is trying to do. So like, whether you have a male or a female, if they don't understand what the vision is, what the goals are, and they are willing to put in the requisite work to ensure that the organization gets that goal achieved, then you're going to have issues with the leadership. So whether it's a man leading a woman or it's a woman leading a man, if there's a bit of tension in terms of differences in us understanding the outcomes and what we need to do to get the job done, we'll have issues, so yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I at some point I felt I was going to be lost in this conversation. I just want you to do your thing because I mean, it's great to have you here, but
thank you.
I was going to come from the angle of the impact your organization wanted to to achieve when you started these programs with young girls, right?
Yes.
Because I know Wayland essentially is women, right?
It's women.
But targeting young girls, what was the aim for?
Okay, so the aim really is we have realized that the leadership conversation cannot be had without the youth, the young ones, because when we say we want to shift perception and we want to change the mindset of people, which is one of our core, and you start thinking of changing the mindset of a 50-year-old or a 60-year-old, that person is done. There's nothing you're changing because they're set in their ways. And so we sat down and we thought about it, that how about we start from the beginning? Okay. So let's start from the youngest, in quotes. And then we use this as a platform to start to build a pipeline of the female leaders that we want to see then achieve and occupy these positions that we're talking about. So if we're saying in Nigeria there's a glaring lack of female representation or women's representation, then how do we start to build these women that we then want to see go into this position? So that's really the thinking behind the National Head Girl Project in its entirety. It's building and equipping young female leaders in this leadership. And when you're in Nigeria, or I think Africa in general, the head girl position is really the first time a young girl gets into this place where she actually runs things. She's the leader of the school, in quotes, and there's also the head boy that she then has to lead alongside. So we see that how about we target them at this very prime time, at this stage where they're just coming into leadership, and then we start to shape them, how they're seeing this role, what they can do, and even what it can be on a larger scale. So going into university and then outside of that.
What have you seen? What have you noticed in these years that you've been working in this project? What have you noticed being the major challenges that these girls have come to you with, and then how much have you been able to tame some of these things or change some of the mindsets?
Okay, so I'd like to also just mention that this year we had our 4th edition, and by next year it will be the 5th one, and it's going to be big. 5 is a big number, but in our interactions with the girls over the years, I would say that the key thing that young girls struggle with is how they see themselves, is the image, and being able to be confident in what they know and how they present themselves. So even some of the conversations that we had yesterday at the conference, questions were asked along the line of, how can I lead, without feeling this pressure to be perfect? Because, there's always this pressure on head boys, even head girls, and prefects, even at this young age, for them to be perfect. Because, you are the leader of the school now. You can't be behaving anyhow. And they're asking, how can I balance it? How can I come across to my mates as not being too pushy? So it's that image thing of them being confident enough to say, okay, now that I'm in this position, this is what I can do, and this is what I would love to achieve with this role that I have found myself in. And how are we helping them, really? Like I mentioned at the conference, we have all kinds of sessions where we bring, even former head girls that are now doing amazing in the marketplace, in their jobs and whatever it is they're doing right now in their career, to sort of share what life has been like after the badge. That's what we call it, life after the badge. So it's to share what their journey has been like, to help the girls see themselves. There's something about mirroring, where if you see somebody doing something that, that is probably in the same position that you are currently, you see possibility, and you're like, oh wow, I can do this. If she's doing this, probably even in the same field I want to go into, then that means it's possible. So those are some of the ways where we try to help them see themselves in women who have also gone ahead of them, who have held this same position, and see that it is possible. You can do it.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much, Itunuoluwa. Now, I love the fact that, yes, you've taken it from school, from secondary school, but we want to go back to the very foundation. That is the home. I like that expression. I like the expression. So when we go back to the home, we have seen families whereby there could be 4 girls, 5 girls ahead of the boy. But when it comes to leadership role, they still tell you that the boy child should lead. And this has caused some kind of self-limitation, setback for the girl child. So if we get into the school, becoming the head girl is not the thing. Okay, you thought that you can be a leader from school, like what Willen is doing right now. But how about the home? How can they fit into that? Or how would they, with the first daughter, how can she take that responsibility? I'm the first child of this home, and I need to lead my younger ones.
I feel like you want to open, serious debate in quotes here. But the truth is, gender roles have always been a thing. And in our society that is also highly patriarchal, where men, either the last born or the middle born would always, somewhat be positioned to be higher than the young girl. I feel like the thing and the work that we are doing is really in helping her mindset. So it's all about the mind. And it's getting her to a place where she starts to see that regardless of what is, like, first of all, even understanding that what is happening in my home is not normal. Like, this is not normal. This is not what it should be. So it could be either the cultural bias or even some sort of religious bias that is playing out in that home front. But for her to understand that, this might be what is happening in my house, but it's actually not normal. Like, I can lead. There are girls, other girls probably in my school who are leading and who in their families are also taking that position. But the thing is, we also try to let the girls know that it's not always about pushing for a title. You can lead from the back, in quotes. You can lead from the back. Leadership is a thing of influence. So it's not about you having a title to say, I'm the head of this before I can lead. You can be a team member and you can still be really contributing to that team's direction, in quotes. So you don't necessarily have to have the title to lead, but we know that the titles are also important. So for the young girl in a home where, she feels unseen and unheard, my message to her is, trust me, you belong in every space where leadership conversations are being had. And that's the truth. And that's what we keep trying to reiterate and preach across all of our programming, especially the National Head Girl Conference.
Growing up, the girl child is made to act nicely, lovable.
Be perfect, smile.
Perfect. And as a matter of fact, as much as the society is changing today, you still agree with me that to a very large extent, the girl child is still being prepped up for marriage.
Absolutely.
Then for the future, or for education, for leadership role. What do we need to do about this myth? Because it has eaten deep into the society.
Absolutely.
So what do we need to do? Using yourself as an instance, you are a team lead here now. So what do you think needs to change when it comes to prepping the girl child from the early age? Come on, you have to be neat, you have to be likable, you have to talk nicely, you have to do this. And okay, before you answer that,
because the signs are too much.
Before you answer that, when a girl is also leading, they tell you she's bossy. She's being too bossy.
At this point, I know I was going to be like,
she can be doing exactly what the boy child is doing.
But it's seen differently, it's perceived differently.
Either bossy or aggressive or all those kinds of languages are mostly used to describe the action of the girl child. What do we need to do to correct this societal belief?
Honestly, I would say there's a lot of work to be done, to be honest. There's really a lot of work to be done in orientating the society. I feel like we need to move from where we currently are in the way we think, the way we perceive, and the way we view women. And if that shift does not happen, we won't see the results that we want to have. Which is why we actually have a show called The Leading Woman Show. And that's really what The Leading Woman Show is about. The Leading Woman Show is focused on shaping the mindset of society, shaping how they view women, and then how they view women as leaders. So it's having conversations that would help people understand that what you just described. Like, why is it that Emmanuel is confident? Emmanuel is, he's articulate.
Exactly.
But maybe is bossy, she's intrusive.
Yes.
She does too much. Why is it that perception is different?
I'm feeling attacked. But don't
we apologize, but that's not the intention. But it's the truth. It's how I say something and you say something, and two people, all the people in the room, take it differently. And it's because everybody views communication through their own biases.
Exactly.
So it's a personal bias on probably my path to say that whenever women are talking, I pay extra attention. And there's a personal bias probably on your path that when a man is talking, you also pay extra attention. Now, for me, it's a thing of maybe because in my line of work, I have realized that women are most times speaking, but nobody's listening. And because your voice is louder, more masculine for some reason, you grab my attention immediately. So I have to take extra time to listen to what Omevi is saying and make sure that her voice, her contributions are being added to the conversation that we're having. So we're not talking over you, and you're not just adding to the conversation here and there. You are actually an active part of it. So when we say there's reorientation, it needs to be on like a national scale. And I think the media has a huge role to play, and which is why I am really happy we're having this type of conversation. These are the type of conversations that we need to keep having,
Okay.
where we're letting people know out there across all age demographics that we need to dead, in quotes, the narrative that women cannot lead. We need to dead this notion that, a girl needs to be prepped for marriage first before any other thing. And nobody is here saying that marriage is not a good thing. It's a good thing in itself. But when my sole purpose now is being groomed to how to respond to a man in this relationship space or in this relationship position, whatever, then there's a huge problem, because there's so much more to me than being Mrs. Something, and so that's really what I think we need to do.
Leapfrogging from this thought, and it was going to just dive me straight into the projects that you guys already do at Whelan. Now, you had a conference yesterday, or I had to do with innovation, because you were talking about the woman essentially has an idea, and then she also needs an opportunity to expand that idea and that thought. So when you guys talk innovation, right, and then it's something that you already do with these kids, what was the aim towards it? Was it them to showcase themselves, or what was it meant for?
Thank you very much for that question. So for us, we realize that now the world is very, very technology driven. We've gotten into a new dispensation with AI, and we need to ensure that our girls and boys, to be honest, are being carried along in this conversation, especially because Nigeria is already seen education-wise to be behind in a lot of things. So we want to also bring our programming up to speed in what we're attracting and what we're addressing. And so this year we thought about that the National Head Girl Competition should have a very STEM focus. So you all know STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And typically what we would do for the competition is we would ask the girls, the head girls and assistant head girls, to create a solution for something happening in their school or their community at large. So they would always come up with amazing proposals, ideas, that they wanted. But this year we said a STEM focus. So every solution that you are bringing up has to have a STEM aspect to it. And trust me, the results were wowing. We had 102 applications from across Nigeria, all 6 geopolitical zones represented. Yes, and then we had to whittle them down to 5 finalists, who then presented at the conference yesterday. And I can tell you for a fact that through their presentations and the proposals that they had, something good is happening in this country. I mean, sometimes we might look down on our system, but I promise you, there's hope, And just to look at the 5 finalists that we had one of the girls basically invent a machine to help with menstrual pad disposal, because she came up with this idea that the confidence of girls when it comes to disposing their pads, there's always that issue of where do I throw it? You don't want people to see me. I don't want to put this in the toilet where everybody goes, especially if you're in a public school where you don't necessarily have, different facilities and things like that. She actually came up with an invention of a little machine, very portable, where everybody can have their own. Basically, you can put your pad in, it burns, and you just have a refillable gas canister. Imagine that thinking. And her teacher helped her. They got local artisans. They built that. And that was one person. Our winner actually came up with something she calls life pellets. And this is basically a bracelet that has 8 pellet beads to help track immunization for newborns to 1-year-olds. So she says in her community, I think Ayamelum, somewhere in Anambra State, they have this huge issue of flooding. And with that flooding, what happens is that when people are obviously trying to get out of their homes, they can't carry documents. You will not remember CV, all those things, especially things like immunization cards. And so they leave. And then the mothers cannot track, what was the last vaccination my kid took? And they have to go and probably start again. And then this will lead to over-immunization, which is also an issue. So the life pellet bracelet is basically to say, when a child is born in whatever facility, you get a bracelet. And then 1 pellet per immunization for the cycle is given. So wherever you're going, if you go with your 3 pellets on, the nurse or the immunization vaccination person knows that, 3 means you've taken, I don't know, BCG, MSC, whatever, and this is the next one to go, based on the fact that we already have a national schedule for immunization. Imagine that. So that was such a fantastic idea. And so on. There was somebody, one of the finalists, who has an app that she has basically built to replace physical labs. So you know how you have science labs in secondary school?
Yeah.
And which are really expensive to maintain, you know, chemicals and all of those things. So she has basically built a platform online where you can go and simulate your regular science laboratory type of experiments. And these are 15, 16-year-olds.
Secondary school kids.
Secondary school kids. And this is why the National Healthcare Conference will never stop.
You know? But my concern is not just creating or building an innovation.
Yeah.
What is the follow-up?
Okay, I can tell you the follow-up.
Yes, it's very important because we have seen people building, we've seen young people, boys and girls, building machines in maybe in core village in the north
remote places,
or somewhere in the south and thereabouts, but there is never a follow-up. On this now, what is the follow-up plan?
So I can tell you that for the National Head Girl Project, like we like to call it a project, so that you understand that it's not just a one-off. There's a whole plan. So for instance, these girls who made it to top 5 finalists, the top 5 finals already got some funding to start their project and to support their project. Now, how we would follow them up is throughout the cycle of them starting this project, we will be there every step of the way to say, how are you on execution, implementation? What do you need? Do you need, I don't know, help writing letters? Do you need help, you know, finding either an artisan? Do you need help with distribution? And it would interest you to know that some of these girls have even gone ahead of us. They have already started, you know, communicating with national bodies in terms of road and construction, for some, for manufacturing, for some, talking to first ladies of their states to sort of canvass support for their project. So we're definitely going to handhold them to ensure that the first pilot of all of these projects gets on track and they're able to achieve something with it. And for us as well, measuring is very important. So we want to know that, you know, we're following you up and we need to see your project to the end. So many of them already have like a plan. For instance, the life pellets that I spoke about, the bracelets, she has a plan to roll out for 300 people, 300 kids in her community. And from there, we'll now see how we can scale either to the next local government and then the next local government. And even see if this is something we can roll out on a national scale. Absolutely,
So I do appreciate the fact that at least some of the problems that Africa has, people actually see them, and then rather than complain about it, they are making efforts towards fixing it. Right? I'm so sorry because it's coming from the women. I'm not going to now make it look like it's watered down. But I do feel like if we begin to shift, even we who talk about these things, begin to shift our thoughts from complaining about the problems and looking for opportunities to fix them, I think Africa would grow. But and then I see beyond the metrics that you guys have to measure up, okay, whether this person is good. I want to assume that you had 100 and something entries, right? What happens to those that didn't make the finals? Because they probably would have fantastic ideas on their own. You just need somebody to help them to upscale.
So for those who didn't make it to either the top 10 or the top 5, I mean, we have shared feedback, which is something that we'll do. We'll look at the project and we'll share feedback, because the truth is not all of them are actually viable ideas. They're good ideas for some, but some are not actually viable. So it's to share feedback and say, oh, this idea, we like the thinking behind it, but next time, maybe put this in place, you know, to ensure that the idea is not just an idea, but actually an actionable idea. So, you know, there's so many ideas, to be honest, but how it's presented, how it's packaged, the thinking behind it to say, how do you actually execute? So that's not just a lofty idea in your head, but the practicality of implementing and executing. We would share feedback. And the truth is, many times we try as much as possible not to also overpromise. And then under-deliver. So we also, because these are kids. We also have to be careful with, you know, the expectations that you give them. And so we'll keep telling the schools to reapply, you know. The schools that applied last year, some of them reapplied this year. And, you know, they made it into top 10, top 5. And they didn't. So they are taking feedback as well as to what they can do to improve their presentations, their proposals, how they package, you know, what it is that they want to do, how they are thinking about it. So it's not just write an idea and submit and you think it's just going to fly that way, because a lot of people are also thinking. So maybe the best man win, basically. That's what it is.
But I also see, because 100 and something entries does not necessarily cover the entire nation. If we're going to calculate how many secondary schools that we have, right? So how much can schools do, even if they don't come for competitions, how much do they need to do to begin to see problems as opportunities rather than things to complain about? And then next, just like an addition to the question is, how do you want to, you know, marry this on a more national scale? When I'm talking about not just this number, I mean a national scale, maybe like a policy for government. What do you want them to do? Is it like they to change curriculum or something? And then do you want to still maintain STEM next year?
Okay, so I will start from the last question. So if we're still going to maintain STEM, what we try to do with the National Head Girl Conference is also align with the things that we have every year from the International Day of the Girl Child, which is exactly.
Okay.
So we try to align, but I think we've seen this year that the STEM bit is really important. So we might keep an element, I can't really give you that right now, what the direction would be for the competition. But in engaging the girls, because we have them in a community now, it's to keep getting them to stay innovative in their thinking, because the truth is you can be innovative outside of STEM. And there are many things that can be driven by STEM that are not necessarily as technical as we think. But as far as you're keeping the core ideas, which is let's be innovative in how we're thinking about things. Like you said, thinking about solutions rather than just complaining all the time. And what would we like to see change would definitely be a different approach to our curriculum. We've seen that some of the schools that are focused on science and technology do better with some of these things. And that's because they are more practical. They're doing more hands-on learning in terms of what they're learning in school, rather than very textbook-heavy education that you typically see in our regular secondary schools. So I think that's something for the government and either the national education boards and universal education boards to really think about, is getting more practical hands-on learning into our curriculum so that our kids are not left far behind. And let it not be something that is just for the privileged. Let this,
public schools,
we need to get the public schools on board, the public universities as well on board, so that we are not just churning out students who are not fully rounded and let the world leaves us behind. But we are really, like I said, hopeful based on what we saw this year with the proposals that came in. Schools from Mina, schools from Abuja, Kaduna, Benue, Port Harcourt. So it's not even like it was just certain hubs that you would expect. We did get applications from schools across board. And on our part, to make it really national, is something we try to improve every year, because as you know, there's a lot of manpower definitely involved. So we do like a volunteer outreach where we get volunteers in every state. And we've not been able to obviously get in every 36 states. So now we're doing regions at the moment. But to scale up, we will definitely keep reaching out to see how we can reach volunteers in more states so that we can reach more secondary schools. Because what our volunteers then do is they take word about the competition to each school and explain to them why they need to be part of this, show them what has happened in the past years, and basically convince the principals, the teachers, to participate. They have been, because every year we get more applications, to be honest. So it's been, successful, but we'll keep building up on it so that we can then truly say, national. We want every state, to get at least one application. That representation.
Yes, finally, I want to quickly ask, is this program, in organizing this program, the policymakers of each state or at the federal level, is any of them carried along to see how they can scale this beyond the way it is now, or maybe make some policies in favor of promoting girls in leadership? Is anyone
now we're currently in talks with a few in quotes, policymakers. I will not share. But yes, conversations are being had as to how they can also come in to scale this up, like you said. So maybe on a statewide basis, where we have the competitions happen, and then we have the grand finale, for instance, something like that. But for us, the Lagos State Ministry of Education, for instance, has always endorsed the National Head Girl Conference. But that's because we're based in Lagos. But then we can't now start saying, Imo State has endorsed, this state has endorsed. It would be great to do that. But right now, we have gotten approval from the Lagos State Ministry of Education. And we're hoping to continue to build a relationship with them and see how they can really come on board to make this even more representative, like you said, and bigger as time goes on.
Yes, your final word is so the girl child that is watching right now, there is a girl that is out there watching you, listening to you, and she has some beautiful ideas, but somehow she's scared. She's holding back. What would people say? What would the society tag me and all that? Those kind of things. Or looking for an opportunity like the National Head Girl Conference to showcase her talent, her skills, and all that. What do you have to say to that girl out there?
I mean, your dreams are valid, and you belong in every space where conversations about leadership matters. And that's my final word. Your dreams are valid. Everything you think, you can build, and you can use innovation to back it up. And trust me, with the right platforms, like Wayland, for instance, we will try and support you the very best way we can and make sure that we take you from point A to point B until you get to where it is that you want to be. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. We've had an amazing conversation.
Absolutely.
And I think the
me.
mindset of so many people have been changed.
Hopefully.
I hope so too.
I don't want to have that argument today because I didn't like that. The first time we met, that was the argument we had. So
it's a process.
It is a process, really. It is a process. So our conversation today makes one thing clear. The future isn't a place girls are going. It's a place they are actively building. Let's move beyond the myths. Let's champion their ambition and ensure every girl knows her voice is not just welcome, but it is essential. We'll go on this quick break, and when we come back, we will be entering the second segment of Just Africa. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.